A quick introduction about myself. This is Praveen. I have around 18 years of experience to various Microsoft technologies. I am working on Azure, I think since 6 years. So I have worked on various roles. I worked as an architect, a DevOps architect, solutions architect, even development architect. That's a brief info about myself. And coming to this course, Azure DevOps. So this course will help you in two things. One, cracking the interviews, and second thing, how to work in a real-time environment with Azure DevOps and Azure. Okay, we will be doing these two throughout the course for every topic. So I am sharing my screen. Please someone confirm if you can see my screen now. You should be able to see my screen now.
Yeah.
Yes, Praveen.
Yes, very good.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So I have opened my Chrome browser. You can see two tabs, right? So this is portal.azure.com. So this is an Azure management portal. Don't worry about all this. I will explain them later. But this is a website where we create servers in Azure. Okay. And this is dev.azure.com. Right. So this is Azure DevOps portal. Azure DevOps, here you see, they are not two different words. Najir,
Sir.
can you please go on mute? There is
Okay.
some background noise. Trying to mute yourself. Yeah, I think he will join again. All right. So here, Azure DevOps, right? So these two are not different words, right? Azure DevOps itself is a tool that helps us in achieving DevOps. But now, because this has the word Azure DevOps, it doesn't mean that this is specific to Azure. But even if your servers, your applications are hosted in on-prem or AWS or anywhere, but still you can implement DevOps using this tool. So Azure DevOps can be used for automating everything, whether it is hosted inside Azure, inside some other cloud, or even in on-prem. Right? So Azure is a separate thing, which is cloud. Azure is a private cloud, and Azure DevOps, Azure is a public cloud, not private cloud. It's a public cloud, and Azure DevOps is a DevOps tool by Microsoft themselves. Okay, all right. So let's start. So this course will be focused more on learning that tool called Azure DevOps. And we will also learn a bit of Azure administration. Okay, so in real world, an Azure administrator will be doing all things manually. Okay, but the DevOps engineer role is to automate everything that an Azure administrator would be doing manually, for obvious reasons, right? So nowadays, automation has become very important role in every organization. Earlier, few years back, people were asking us to do everything manually, but now nobody is accepting. If you say that we have done this manually, okay. So even if it takes time, additional time, please do it automatically only. Please write some kind of code to create something, to modify something, to delete something. So Azure DevOps has become very critical nowadays, and it's become very hot job role. There are many opportunities for Azure DevOps in the market today for two reasons. One, there are many companies who are migrating into Azure. So obviously they will look at Azure DevOps role. So that's one reason why there are many job openings. The other reason is there are very few people in the market who knows Azure DevOps, who has experience in Azure DevOps, right? Even in our company, we are even in my previous company, right? Everybody is struggling to get the appropriate SMEs or appropriate experts in Azure DevOps. Even in my previous company, people are approaching me almost once every month asking if you know any resource in Azure DevOps, right? So even in my current company, we are taking interviews even weekends. That's the demand. That's how the demand is for Azure and Azure DevOps. Okay. So in this course, we'll also learn a bit of Azure administration as well. Okay, 20-30% will be spent on Azure administration, and rest of the 70% will be spent on Azure DevOps. Okay, so after the course, I will also share you what are the roles and responsibilities, or while in the course itself, I will explain what are the roles that Azure DevOps will be doing, a DevOps engineer will be doing. Okay, all right. So today, for this demonstration, I will be playing multiple roles. I will work as an admin first, and then as a DevOps engineer, I will explain what admin would do and what a DevOps engineer would do, and how developers work. Okay, because DevOps engineer role is to fill the gap between an admin and the developer. So DevOps engineer should understand what developers would do and what admins would do. So DevOps engineer role is to automate what they do manually. I'm not talking about coding here. Okay. Apart from coding, developer, whatever he do or she do in hosting, in packaging the application, all that stuff will be automated by DevOps engineers. Okay. So today I will show you at a high level what their guys, are you getting any disturbance from my end? Okay. All right. So if you have any questions, guys, please don't hesitate to type that in the chat window. I will ensure that I answer every question of yours. All right, let's move on. So first we'll talk about what is cloud computing. So in simpler terms, cloud computing is nothing but delivering of any kind of infrastructure. Could be a web server, it could be a database server, it could be a storage server, or even networking or anything over internet. Right? When we create some servers, It will be created in some place managed by Microsoft. That's why it is called as cloud. You don't know the location. It is located very remotely. I am from India, Hyderabad, but now I am going to create some servers, some websites somewhere in the internet in East US, somewhere in the East US using internet. Okay, that's why it's called as cloud. And how can we provide this, and who is providing all this? Cloud providers. So some big companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, all these companies are providing us cloud platforms using which we can create resources. Because these guys are providing cloud platforms, they are called as cloud providers. So obviously, because they are providing us services, they charge us. Okay, so the charges are very similar to how we pay for our water bill or electricity bill at home. Let's say at home, if you consume 100 units of electricity, obviously will be charged only for those 100 units, not beyond that, right? The same way, you are consuming a server for 10 hours, will be charged only for 10 hours. So all that flexibility is available in cloud. There are more than 200, 300 services, and every day Microsoft is releasing new services. Very frequently, they are releasing new services. And the number of services keep on increasing. So now you don't have to learn everything. You don't have to be an expert in all services. This course will focus on some common services that every person should be aware. Not just DevOps engineer, but everybody should be aware of those common services if they want to start their career in Azure. Right? We will focus only on those services in this course. Okay. So now, as I said, there are hundreds of services, right? So this is how cloud got evolved. Initially, we had on-premises only, but now in Azure, we have all these categories. Every service would fall under one of these categories. So IaaS, right? This is infrastructure as a service. Here you see platform as a service and software as a service. So now every service that you create in Azure will be categorized into one of these categories. Now what are these categories and what are the differences between these categories? That might be a question, right? So let me answer that in the next slide. You see there are 4 vertical sections. On-premises, these for on-prem, these 3 are in cloud. First one is infrastructure as a service. This is also called as IaaS. This is also called as PaaS and SaaS. Now you see 2 colors. One is in blue color. The other one is in gray color. These are all gray color items, right? So as it is shown, they are managed by others. Blue color items are managed by us. When I say us, it need not be a DevOps engineer. It could be some kind of administrator, a system administrator, Azure administrator, or network administrator, or some other person. Someone, somewhere who is built by a client. I mean, who is built to the client, right? Someone in our team are responsible for managing these. So everything is an activity. Okay. So in on-prem, it's everything is our responsibility. For example, there is a new business which is getting started now. So they should start with renting a building first and then doing their networking setup, purchasing storage and servers, implementing virtualization. So one physical server In one physical server, you might want multiple virtual machines, right? So in each of so for doing that virtualization, you need to have some special softwares like Hyper. Some there are some VMware, those kind of softwares are available, right? And then once virtualization in place, you need to set up operating systems, right? There's a lot of work here. You need to purchase licenses, you need to install operating system, and then every day or every week, Microsoft releases patches, updates, security patches, bug fixes. So we need to ensure that we download and install them and ensure that we are latest. So there is a lot of work here, right? And then we are also responsible for installation of middleware like web servers, and then runtimes like .NET framework, Java framework, or JVM they call, PHP runtime. So depending on what you want to use, based on that you have to install and configure the appropriate tools and services. And finally, our responsibility to create and manage databases and applications as well. Everything is our responsibility. Not just these, apart from that, we also need to take care of building maintenance, building security, air conditions, everything. Okay, that is how in on-prem things work. But in cloud, there are a lot of work. There's a lot of work abstracted from us. Microsoft themselves will take care of some of the functionalities which are colored in gray. We don't need to worry about maintaining buildings, setting up networks, setting up servers, physical servers, and virtualization. All these will be taken care by Microsoft Azure. And there are many software experts, cloud experts working in Microsoft data centers. So we don't need to pay for those employees. We don't need to pay money for what Microsoft pays as rent to that building. Maintenance, right? All that is not our worry. We don't need to pay for all those. They only charge for hardware that we use. For example, let's say I want to create a virtual machine in Azure and I would like to use Windows. So obviously you will be charged only for OS license because Windows is not free. If Linux, then it is free. Ubuntu is free. But they charge us for how much CPU cores and how much RAM we choose for that server. The rest of all this, we don't need to worry. Networking, we don't need to worry, right? Air conditions are there, right? They don't bill us for that. Microsoft employees are working on our servers. We don't bill for that. Okay. From here, it's our responsibility. You can choose which OS you want. So because OS is under our control, we are responsible for installation of patches, installation of security patches, updates. Everything is our responsibility. We have to explicitly install all this in IaaS. So moving from on-prem to IaaS definitely saves a lot of work, a lot of money to our customer. Okay. But nowadays, many people are moving from on-prem to PaaS. Why? Because 80% of the job is done by Microsoft themselves. You don't have to worry about installation or maintenance of anything here. We need to be taking care only of database management and application management. That's it. Here, 50% is our responsibility and 50% is Microsoft responsibility. But here in PaaS, 80% is Microsoft responsibility and only 20% is our response. Right? And I will give you another example. The difference between these two is, let's say today the the most latest version of Windows Server is, I think 2019 or something. Let's say after 10 years or 5 years, Microsoft says Windows Server 2019 is deprecated. Need to upgrade to latest version, which is 2025. Windows Server 2025 is the latest version. We will be stopping updates to 2019. Definitely Microsoft will say that. So in IaaS, it's our responsibility to create a new server and migrate all our tools, applications, everything into the new server. That will be a lot of work. The servers will go down for some time, right? But in PaaS, it's not our responsibility because we don't have access to OS at all. Microsoft will take care of upgrading from whatever version to the newer version automatically without any impact to us. So obviously, a lot of work is done by Microsoft themselves. It will save a lot of money to our customers. So many organizations are looking towards migrating from on-prem to PaaS. So we'll focus more on PaaS. When I say more, at least whatever we discuss, right? Most of the services that we discuss will be on PaaS. Okay. And finally, we have SaaS. We will not cover anything on SaaS. But knowingly or unknowingly, we all use at least one or two SaaS products in our daily life. Any guesses on what are SaaS products that we use in our daily life? Can someone answer?
It's Gmail. Is an example.
Very good. Gmail, Outlook, not Outlook, sorry,
Yeah, Outlook.
not Outlook, Office 365. So now it is changed to Microsoft 365. Earlier it was called as Office 365. So Gmail is also very similar to Office 365. Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive. These are all SaaS products. Everything is done by someone. We only need to, in case if you want to use SaaS product, we only need to pay monthly subscription or yearly subscription. That's it. So there is no maintenance work at all from our end. Everybody is taken care by some company. Okay. So now let me move ahead and let me create Azure services in PaaS. Okay. There are two services. One, app service plan. This is a server. This is a PaaS server. And I'm going to create a PaaS server. And then I'm going to create a web app. It is called as app service. App service is different. App service plan is different. Okay. So app service plan can contain one or more app services like this, depending on the requirements. Okay. Let's first create an app service plan. So I will explain what an app service plan in a bit. But let's create app service plan and then app service. Okay. So navigate to Azure portal. Portal.azure.com is a URL. I have an account already. So I am logged into Azure Management Portal. In case if you are interested in Azure, creating Azure for free, then you need to search in Google and click on this first link and then start free. It will ask you to provide a valid phone number, email address, and a card. It could be debit card or it could be credit card. It will not charge anything. It will charge just 1 rupee for testing and it will revert it back. So now when you create a free trial, you will get $200 of credit. They will credit you $200 into your account, which is equivalent to 11,000 rupees into your account. So I already have one. So I have logged into Azure Management Portal. So you have a left menu here. There are many services that you can create. But before you create anything, the very first step is you need to create a resource group. Okay. So I already created many resource groups. Let me delete some of them. It's very simple to delete these things. So what is a resource group? So as the name suggests, it's a group of resources. In Azure, everything is a resource. Now, what is a resource? So app service plan is a resource. App service, these are all app services. App service is a resource. Now, before you create this, you should have a subscription first and then a resource group. Okay. So I already have 3 resource groups created for us. The first one is dev. The second one is QA. And then third one is prod. I'm sure everybody knows what is an environment, right? When you're working for your customer, they will have different environments, one for development and testing. Probably this is for testing team or some other client UAT team, right? And finally, this is for end users, public end users like us. So there, every project will minimum have 3 environments, but some companies have multiple environments as well, more than 3. Okay. So every resource group contains resources like this, right? So you see here 4 resources are there in prod. The name is appended with prod. But if I click on QA, you see the same resources, but with QA. If I go to dev, same resources, but with dev as suffix, right? So now what I'm going to do is, so here I have 3 environments and every service, every resource group or every environment has multiple resources, right? In this example, there are 4 resources. But in one of my projects, we had more than 300 resources like this, right? So creation of these services in multiple environments will take a lot of time. Initially, you might start only with dev environment, create all hundreds of services here. Client reviews everything and says, hey, everything is good. Now create them in QA and create them in prod. They can say that. Obviously, it will take a lot of time, right, to create them manually. That's where automation comes into picture. That's where a DevOps engineer role comes into picture. Creation of services should never be manual, but it should be automatic. So I am going to delete all of this and I will show you how to create them manually and how to create them automatically. Okay. So I selected all this. I'm cleaning up QA environment. I'm cleaning up prod environment except this. There is a reason why I'm not deleting this. I'll explain that later in the course. For now, just ignore that file. Okay. So yeah, dev is clean up. So a resource group is nothing but a container, a logical container for holding the resources. So how do I create a resource group? It's very simple. All you do is go to resource group, click on this menu item in the left hand side. If they are existing resource group, you will see them like this. And if you want to add a new resource group, create, click on add, and provide a name for your resource group. So naming convention is very, very important here. Let's say Azure DevOps is your project name, and we are planning to host everything in East US. E stands for East US. And then for which environment you are doing it, dev environment, right? But I already have a dev environment. For now I will say test environment. That's it. So resource is created. Every time you create a resource, a notification will be shown like this. It's empty, right? So now I would like to create a PaaS service. I'm going to create two PaaS services. One is app service plan. The other one is app service. Okay. So let me create app service plan first. So while creating any service, you will see multiple tabs like this. Depending on the service, these tabs would vary. But these three are mandatory for everyone. Basics, tags, review plus create. You will see this everywhere, almost everywhere. So first, we are going to do manually. I'm creating the services manually as an Azure administrator. So this resource group I will use for creating services manually, but I will show you how to automatically create all the services in these three environments. Okay, but first I will show you how to create them manually. So I am creating an app service plan manually in the test environment. Okay, so I'll provide a name called Azure-DevOps-App Service Plan with Windows in East US for test environment. That should be our naming convention. Of course, different companies follow different naming conventions. You should also follow naming convention on your project requirements. Now it is asking us to choose what OS you want. I'll choose Windows. But within Windows, which version? That's not possible in PaaS. Right? If I go back, I have explained all advantages only in PaaS. Right? We don't have to worry about all this. But now problem is I cannot choose which operating system, which version I want. I cannot do that. I will not be able to do that because this is PaaS. OS is managed by whom? Who is managing OS in PaaS? So OS is in gray color. That means all gray color items are managed by Microsoft Azure. So we cannot choose which version of Windows you want because they will keep on upgrading as and when a new version is available. So just say it is Windows or Linux. That's it. And you can mention in which location you want. I prefer doing it in East US. You see, I am from India, Hyderabad, but now I am going to create a server in Windows server in East US. It hardly takes 1 minute, not even 1 minute. In just 30 seconds, our server will be up and running. We are done. We provided a name. We have chosen resource group. We have chosen which OS and where you want, and what is the capacity of the server you want. We are done. It went to final step where you can do a final review. If you're not satisfied with some of them, you can go back. If you're satisfied, just click on create. That's it. I'm done. In 30 seconds, we have a PaaS server which is production ready. I can use it for even production environment. But if you have to do the same thing in on-prem, it takes months together. You see, it hardly takes 30 seconds. Now I can deploy my application into this. So let me do it manually. Okay. So now I am playing. So far, I have played an Azure administrator role. I created this. I created the resource group manually. This is all Azure administrator role. Now let me play a developer role. So as a developer or as a team of developers, they will work on developing the application. It could be .NET, it could be Java, it could be PHP, or it could be any language, any platform, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to deploy this. I assume that the project is all done. This is a very simple project. This is all source code. I am going to deploy this. Right click, publish. Sorry, I already published. So yeah, this is how it looks very first time. So a DevOps engineer need not worry about all this because a developer will be doing all this. I'm just showing how a developer would publish. And nothing is happening. Yeah. So I would like to deploy it to Azure in Windows App Service. Okay. So we have only created app service plan. We did not create any app service yet, right? So I forgot that. I'm sorry. This app service plan, right? Let me go back to PPT. We have created only this, but not this, right? I forgot. So let me create app service now. Go back. It's very simple. Hover on this app service. Click on create. You see, same UI, but additional tabs here because we are now creating app service web app. So web app and app service both are same. Web app is the old name, app service is a new name, but in some places you still see web app. Same steps. So choose existing resource group, provide a name. Azure -DevOps- test. This is for dev environment in East US. Now you can choose what type of application is this. So app service supports all this. It supports .NET multiple versions, Java multiple versions, Node.js multiple versions, PHP, Python, Ruby, everything. So we don't have to do any installation of software, any configuration, nothing. Just have to come here and choose an item in the drop down. This can be changed later as well. Okay. So now this is our app service details, and here you need to choose app service plan details. So if I expand this drop down, we don't see the app service that we have just created because Here the location is different. Where did we create our app service plan? We have created our app service plan in East US. So now our app service plan is shown here. We are done. That's it. Provide a name, choose which platform you want or which runtime stack you want, and choose the app service plan. That's it. Click on review plus create and click create. That's it. In 30 more seconds, our web application will be up and running. Again, I am playing a administrator role. In 30 more seconds or 10 more seconds, it will be done. So I can click on this resource group. Yeah, it is done. You see, deployment succeeded. Go to resource. So this is our app service. I can browse. A domain is also created for us that can be accessed over internet. You see, if you're working in on-prem and you want to access an application hosted in on-prem, and if you want to access it over internet, it takes so much of time. Many people have to work together. But here I'm the only person. I was able to come to this level in just 2 minutes. That's the power of cloud, especially PaaS. Because we are using PaaS service, it is very easy. Okay. So now let me deploy application. So by default, you will see only one HTML page because we just created a basic app service. Of course, it is ready for production. Now, let me show you the code where exactly it is deployed. We have one HTML page, right? This is the only HTML page which is given to us by Microsoft Azure. We did not deploy anything yet. The HTML page. So I'm going to show you where it is located. You can see that here under app service. Click on go. One HTML page. See HTML. So if I have to do something, hey, app service developers, right? They automatically save. So go back and refresh. So that's the page which is given to us by default from Azure. But I don't want this. I want to deploy our own code. So now let me play a developer role. So select Windows, click next. Oops. I already logged in with my account. Okay. So that's why I'm seeing this app services. These are app service. Choose it, click on finish. That's it. We have linked Visual Studio with Azure and click on publish. That's it. We are done. Deployment is also almost complete. Now it is going to create a package. Then once the package is ready, it's going to create folders. It's going to upload all the files, all the executables into our app service. It's just started. It creates all the folders now. Everything will be published. See, there are so many folders here, so many files. All of them will be published. It's done. So a browser is also opened. Publish is succeeded. See, everything is uploaded. So now if I go back and refresh this page, our website is ready. Isn't it? So all this is manual work, right? So now I have done it in test environment. So like this, there might be hundreds of services a project would require. Today, in this test environment, let me go to test environment. I can click on resource group. We are in resource group now. In the test environment, we have only 2 or 3 services, right? So it took 5-10 minutes. If there are hundreds of services, it takes weeks or months together, at least a week or 2 weeks, right? So I don't want to create them manually. Definitely, if I am creating it manually, I might miss some configuration. So creation of these manually is not a recommended approach. You should never do that. So just for the sake of explaining, I did this manually. You should never do that. So I'm going to delete it. What's the best practice? The best practice is to use some kind of code. Don't worry, you don't have to write anything from scratch. You don't need to learn any programming language. Nothing is required. But you should understand some concepts. I will explain those concepts later. Okay, but I already have created the scripts for that. Okay, let me open that now. So I am moving into Azure DevOps, and I am moving into or let me take this approach. This folder is development application, and this folder is infra. A DevOps engineer will be authoring all this. This is a JSON file. It's a lot of script, right? You don't have to do type all these manually. I will show you later in the class how to get this automatically from different places, right? So this script is responsible for creation of the resources. Just now I created them manually, right? But I'm going to run this script which creates the environment automatically for us. Okay. All right, let's do that now. So I have those scripts even here in Azure DevOps. Same thing that I just showed you, right? It's all there here. Okay. So my source code is this. I manually just deployed it into production, into Azure environment like this, right? So I deleted just now, so you will not see it. It is not working now, but I deleted it. Let me close it. So what a DevOps engineer, right? So far I have played an Azure administrator role and developer role. Now I'm playing a DevOps engineer role. Okay. So I am not going to create everything from scratch because it will confuse you. If I create if I create the pipelines now, you will get confused. You will get confused, and it will take time. So what I'm doing now is I am going to show you existing pipelines. I have already done that. I have already created them. Okay, I will just show you the end output. Okay, but we will see everything from scratch in the codes. So before I show you anything here in DevOps, let me go back to Azure. So we have this resource group, right? Test one is deleted. So if I go to dev, it's empty. If I go to QA, is also empty, and prod is also empty. Of course, there is one of this. So now what I need to do is I need to create those services automatically in all these 3 environments. Okay, let me show you how to do that. Now we'll be doing automation with the help of something called as pipelines. Pipeline is nothing but set of steps. That step can do anything. So in our case, I have a pipeline which is responsible for creating dev environment, QA environment, and prod environment. Okay, so let me first create a dev environment automatically. So I'm going to click on create release. So only this is highlighted. So I want to create the dev environment automatically. After I click on create button. Okay. So let me, before clicking on create, let me show you that this is empty. So for 12 deployments were done. Okay. So I am clicking on create. So this new release has been created. This request is in queue. It is in progress. I can see the logs on what's happening by clicking on this button. The job is running now. Not running, but it's downloading something. Yeah. Otherwise, the pipeline is running. The job is running now. Yeah. Now it has started executing the templates. So ARM templates contains the script for creation of our resources. So these are ARM templates. Okay, don't worry, we'll learn more about that in the course. But now I'm just running them, right? So let me go back here. It is empty. Let me refresh. Nothing is there. So here it should show us one deployment is in progress, but it is not showing. Sometimes it won't show us, but if I refresh, it might show. You see, one deploying. And in fact, our Ask service plan is created already. If you want to see what's going on next, you can click on this button, and one is in progress, right? So you can click on this to see what's going on. A database server is being created now. DB server, right? SQL server. I can go back. I can go back. See, app service is also created. Yes, sometimes SQL server will also be created and database will also be. So I did not do any work here, right? Just ran a pipeline, and it is creating all this automatically. Now we are in dev environment. So let me navigate now to QA environment. It will be empty. So now I want to create a QA environment. So it's very simple now. Go back to pipelines, and click on this pipeline and run pipeline again. But this time, sorry, I clicked on different pipeline. Sorry. Go to releases. These are pipeline. Create one more release, or click on this release itself. Currently dev is in progress, right? So I can see if I can run QA or prod. It is not deployed, so I cannot rerun this. So I will have to create one more release. So go here, click on create release. This time I will do both. I will select prod. So prod cannot be chosen because I have disabled it. So QA will run now. In release 23, QA will start. Of course, this is currently in progress, so it might take time for QA to start. In that way, we can start we can automate the infra provisioning for multiple environments. So I just showed you how to run them. I did not show you how to build all this. So a DevOps engineer is responsible for developing the templates, which are like this, and DevOps engineer responsibility to also author these pipelines, to create these pipelines as well. I did not show you this. I did not show you the creation because it is a little complicated. There are a lot of UI complexities there. That's why I did not show you. But in the real course, we will create all of them from scratch. Okay. In just some time, the QA will also be up and running. So dev, I think it is still in progress. Now you can see 4 services. It's done. 13 succeeded. That's in very in some minutes QA will also start running. Let me see if anything is going on. Nothing is going on. So in some time it will start and it will create QA environment as well. So whether you have 4 resources or 100 resources, the process is same. Okay. That's how a DevOps engineer will automate everything. Now it also includes deployment as well. Okay, I did not show you that. Let me quickly show you that. Now I'm going to dev environment and let me access the web app and browse it. Our application is also deployed. I did not do any deployment manually from Visual Studio, right? To this environment, it's automatically deployed. But earlier, when we worked on test environment, the very first time I created app service, it was showing us a HTML blank page. Right? I had to go to Visual Studio and click on publish, right? Then only it got published. But here, everything is automated, including the deployment of code. So infra provisioning is automatic and deployment is also automatic. Everything is automated. So that means a developer time is saved, administrator time is also saved because of a DevOps engineer's work. So this is how things work in real time. I just show you end-to-end automation using Azure DevOps. Of course, I did not create it from scratch. I just ran it. But in the course, we will see how to build everything from scratch. Yeah, I think I'm done, guys. I would like to now talk from you. So please let me know if you have any questions. So the very first question is, Prakash is asking, is this infrastructure? Yes, this is what infrastructure means. It's not just creation of app services or database, creation of anything. Which certification will do this course? So this is not specific to any course. This is designed for job oriented course. Okay, but if you are planning to do some course, right? For example, a DevOps engineer should do this AZ 400. This is the exam that a DevOps engineer should attempt. Okay, AZ 400. Now there is a requirement, there is a prerequisite for this. You cannot directly write this. Okay, you should have passed AZ 104 or AZ 204 before you attempt this. There is a prerequisite. Okay, so now yeah, AZ 104 is the latest one now. So we will be covering some concepts of AZ 104 and some concepts of AZ 400. So if you want to target certifications, you have to learn something else additionally. But my course is specially designed for people who are looking for a job change. So this we will focus more on interview questions. We'll focus more on real-time scenarios. Instead of working on theoretical things, we will focus more on real-time scenarios. Okay. In exams, you will only be asked theoretical questions. Of course, they will be closer to real world, but you will just have to put up. You will have just to choose some questions, right? And multiple choice questions. So, but our course will focus more on real-time scenarios. So Kumar is asking, would this course include GitHub development as well, like configuration, setup, everything, right? Of course, yes. It's not GitHub, but it will be Git. If you look at this, this is a repository, right? This is a Git repository. I'll show you how to create Git, how to start working with Git in local machine, how to set up Git in remote version, how to create branches, okay? How to create your own branch and raise a pull request. You see, all this will be shown. All the best practices that we follow in real time will be shown. Okay, we'll also be looking at some kind of PowerShell as well. So this is how a PowerShell look like, PowerShell code look like. So I'll be explaining all this, why a PowerShell code is required, how to run them, how to debug it, how a DevOps engineer should work locally and run this in Azure. All those steps will be explained. I am also going to explain how a DevOps engineer will also help a tester, a Selenium tester. Right? So this contains Selenium tests. I'll just show you simple examples. So all this will be explained in the course. So you see, both of them passed, 100% pass percentage. So a functionality testing will be done by Selenium testers. It's a kind of automation. You don't have to worry about writing those test cases, but you should know how to run them as part of your DevOps pipeline. Definitely, a DevOps engineer is not just helping developers and admins, but also testers. Every automation will be done by DevOps guys. So what are the AZ104 topics covered, right? Very good. We'll not cover many things, but we'll cover app service in depth. I just gave introduction of app service plans, app insights, storage accounts, function apps, SQL Server, database, and virtual machines as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Along with virtual machines, we will also discuss virtual networks, sub networks, NSGs. So almost 10 services will be covered. Key Vault, 11 services thing. 11 or 12 services will be covered, which are part of the Key Vault, which are part of AZ104. So there might be 30 services that are required for AZ104, but we will be covering for 11 or 12 services which are related to AZ104. The rest of them you will have to learn on your own. These 10, 11 services are very common in every project. Even in interviews, people would definitely be expecting you to know all those.
Hi Praveen, this is Chaitanya. Do we require Microsoft related tools like .NET and this knowledge?
Absolutely no. Developers will need to know. A DevOps engineer need not now. This is .NET. This is .NET application. You don't need to learn this, right? Because you automated. I showed you how to automate this deployment. The .NET developers will be responsible for doing all this, but you should know how to deploy this. What are the dependencies? What softwares are required to get this work? That information, yes, you should know. Know how to run a .NET application, how to run a Java application. I will show you from scratch. I did not explain that here. I ran this. Okay. DevOps engineers should know how to build an application of .NET, how to run test cases with this, how to do dependencies, how to download dependencies. So all these you should know. These steps will be different for Java or PHP. That information you should know. We will not cover everything, but we will cover only for .NET, because from here the process is same for any other application. It could be Java, it could be Angular, it could be something else. I hope I answered your question, Chaitanya.
Yes, Praveen. Thank you.
Good. And
Yeah, hi
Ram
Praveen.
Kiran is asking.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Is TF and Azure DevOps both are same?
Sorry?
TFS and Azure DevOps both are
TFS.
same?
Yeah, good question. TFS, right? TFS means
Yeah.
Team Foundational
Server.
Server, right? So it's an on-prem software. So initially, Microsoft guys have released TFS. So TFS server must be installed and configured in on-prem. So now with cloud, as cloud got popular, they have released a tool called VSTS. Okay. Now that tool is this. They have renamed it from VSTS to Azure DevOps. So yes, Azure DevOps is a cloud tool and TFS is an on-prem tool. Both are same. You can achieve almost everything in both the tools. Yes, TFS is for on-prem, Azure DevOps is for cloud.
Is there any coding required, like PowerShell, something required in this?
Yes. So some kind of coding is required. But don't worry, if you are not good in programming, that's absolutely fine. Nobody expects you to write some complicated code. But if you have it, then it will be very nice.
Okay.
For example, some cases you might have to write some kind of code like this. If you see this, there is no logic, complex logic. Sorry. Oops. So don't worry, this is very simple code. These are commands. PowerShell is nothing but set of commands. You should know these commands. There is very little logic. If else conditions you should write. Obviously, this is very simple. But otherwise, you should know some commands. Though it is PowerShell is also a programming language, but you don't have to know that in depth. You should know at least how to copy paste the code. I have copy pasted all this code from internet, but you should know how to run it. That will be covered in this course. I will explain how to run it from locally, how to test it, and how to run it from pipelines.
Instead of PowerShell, can we use YAML code?
YAML is for different use case. PowerShell is for different use case. Okay. YAML can be used for building the pipelines. So here I am showing you UI. Right? There are two ways in which you can create pipelines. One is using the UI like this. The other one is using YAML. Okay. So PowerShell is to write some kind of logic. YAML is not a logic. You cannot write logic with YAML. Of course, there are some very minor logics that you can write, but not a complicated logics. But PowerShell is very extensive. You can do anything that you would like to do within PowerShell. So you should not compare PowerShell with YAML.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So now next question is Ram Kiran is asking in the chat. I'm having 14 years of experience. What kind of roles and positions I should apply for, and which all are the modules I need to focus? Yeah, that's a good question, Ram. So what I would recommend you do, I don't know what experience or what technologies you have worked so far, but if you are uh, planning to move into cloud, especially DevOps, then we can target for a DevOps architect, right? For example, okay, SharePoint and Office 365. Okay, SharePoint. When you say SharePoint, it's SharePoint admin, I think. So definitely you should focus. You can focus on. You can unmute and talk. Then when you say SharePoint,
Yeah, I worked as a lead architect, Praveen.
yeah.
So
So
I
you
would
can
like to
apply the
move
same.
to Azure now. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely you can try for architect role, solutions architect or DevOps architect.
Oh, okay, okay. So what are all the modules like? So it's a complete this thing, right? Complete
Obviously, right?
starting
Architect
to
should
end.
try
Yeah,
for
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. You will be covering all these
Yeah.
things, right? So okay, thanks,
Which
thanks,
one?
Praveen.
No, starting to ending will not cover everything, right? That's what I mentioned.
Oh,
So
okay.
in Azure we'll cover 10 services, approximately more than 10 in fact. And a DevOps, whatever end-to-end DevOps will learn. But definitely
Exactly. That's what I
architects
mean to
should
say.
know
Yeah,
beyond that.
end-to-end DevOps. Yeah, end-to-end DevOps, not the
Exactly.
complete Azure.
End-to-end DevOps.
So, yeah, yeah. Thanks, thanks,
Exactly.
Praveen.
Yeah. So in Azure, you should learn more beyond what I teach in this course to
Agree,
become a
agree. I
solution.
know. Yeah, there are huge amount of these things are there in Azure. So we need to cover all these three things: PaaS, SaaS, and
Exactly.
IaaS.
Yes, very good. Exactly. Correct. Now, Narendra is asking, is this course helpful for DBS? Unfortunately, um, no, it's not. I will hardly cover only one topic, which is specific for DBS, right? I will only be covering database, SQL Server database in BAS. That's the only thing that I will be covering. But a DevOps engineer, now a question might be, right? So, what should a DevOps engineer know, right? Let me show you that here. There are some services that a DevOps, a DBAs or data engineer should be focusing on. One is ADF. Of course, the basics, the 10 services that I am teaching, right? All those everybody should know. Okay. And apart from that, you should learn data factory. Where is that? Sorry. Okay. So where is Azure Data Factory? Yeah, Data Factory. Azure Databricks. These two are very, very important for DB. Not these two, but SQL database and database for MySQL, database migration service, MariaDB. So all these data related mini database, all these are very important for DB or database engineering. Fortunately, to be honest, this course is not suitable for DBAs. Okay. All right. Others, any other questions, guys?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Uh, like, do we need Azure Databricks or Data Factory, or we cover those two going through into the course, or how? Like,
That's
would
what I
that be
said, right?
helpful?
This is not for data. No, this is not data related course. That's what I just mentioned, right? It's more for data engineers. So that's a separate course, but this is only for DevOps.
Okay.
Azure
And
DevOps.
would that be helpful if we like have some insight on Databricks and Factory as well?
So definitely, if you
Not
know
for
all those
DBS, not for DBS, but I'm
DevOps
generally
engineer.
asking. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So a DevOps engineer should create anything that is a part of Azure. Okay, for example, creation of data factory. is a DevOps engineer role. Okay, but I think I should show you one. So this is my blog, guys. So for example, you see data factory, automated deployment, CI/CD. So DevOps is everywhere, even in data factory. Okay, so database engineer or data engineer should also be knowing DevOps for sure. In that way, even for DBAs, this course is helpful. Okay, the reason why I said that it is not helpful because data guys, DBAs should learn data factory first, should learn Databricks, should learn about databases first, then DevOps second. Okay, they should not start with DevOps first. It's not, that is not the right path. So now if I go here inside this is a pipeline, data factory pipeline. So this is one step, right? So this particular thing, this is a data factory service. So creation of data factory service will be done by DevOps engineers, but inside this, whatever I show here, so whatever I show here, all are data engineers' responsibility. Okay, so some of them are DevOps engineers' responsibility. Some of them are responsibilities of data engineers. You see, these are DevOps engineer role. These are DevOps portal itself. I am showing DevOps portal. So, if you want to do automation within ADF, then DevOps is important for a data engineer. But now the other case, a DevOps engineer need to know this. Absolutely yes, they should know how to create the services. After creating them, data engineer will take it forward in creation of all the internal things. So I'm not sure if you guys have understood.
Yeah, I got my answer. Thank you.
Good. Okay. So for example, if this, so creation of all these internal things will be taken care by data engineers. But deployment can be taken care by this deployment. This can be taken care by DevOps engineers. So those things come hand in hand. These are all screens that you see here. The screens that you see here are data engineers role, but wherever you see pipelines, all that is DevOps engineer role. So this is ADF website. Okay. So yeah. So one advantage is so every day the session will be recorded and the recording will be given to you guys. And sometimes some people might not be happy with the recordings, right? So in that case, I will be sharing my blog. So I will be blogging all the important things. For example, PowerShell, right? So I was showing you PowerShell. So how do you do PowerShell? Everything is explained here in my blogs. Some people prefer blogs. So you can do all this. So every logic will be explained, right? So everything is shown in my blog as well. So, okay, let's move on to other questions. So what is the duration of this course? The minimum duration is 30 hours. So every day we might have 1 hour 15 minutes of sessions, but overall we will spend around 30 hours, might even extend, but I guarantee 30 hours. So right now I'm running a batch, so we already spent 40 hours, I think, and there might be, I mean, there are 3 more sessions. There are 4 or 5 hours left. So it depends. Minimum is 30 hours that I guarantee, but it depends on how many questions do you ask in every session. Based on that, every day we will extend for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on the questions that you ask. There are no, obviously, I will end once I'm done with my session. Okay. And how many hours per day? Yeah, Sumant, I just answered it. So 1 hour minimum, but it will extend up to 1 hour 15 minutes. Minimum is 1 hour 15 minutes. Sorry, it's not 1 hour, 1 hour 15 minutes, because 1 hour is the session, 15 minutes will be for quiz. Quiz will not be there for every day, but at least for every topic, at least yeah, for every topic we'll have it. Timing sessions are not 9 a.m. It's 7 a.m. 7 a.m. IST. So Vijay and Kumar, the timings are 7 a.m. IST, because 9 a.m. will be too late, right? Most of you will be working. So yeah, 7 a.m. IST. Okay. Any other questions, guys?
I'm sorry, I did not hear that. Is that 7 a.m. IST?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
So let's do the quiz, a very small quiz, very short, just to see how your observation. Very simple. Yeah, please go ahead and answer. SAP service is an example of PaaS. Absolutely, yes, correct, Dave. Is it possible to do a remote desktop with PaaS instance or PaaS service? I did not answer this, I did not explain this, but yes, Dave, you are right. You cannot do a remote desktop, right? I was explaining only the advantages of PaaS, but there are disadvantages. So I created app service plan, right? Let me show you that. I'm closing this. What do? We have created app service plans, right? This is a server. It's beyond a server, but just think this as a server. I cannot log into the server. It's not possible. Why? Because OS is under Microsoft control. We cannot do it. But can I log into IIS server? Absolutely yes. In fact, we are already inside an IIS server. See, at the top you can see a blue bar, right? 13.72.86.245. It's a virtual machine. I logged into my virtual machine already. So this is a resource group for my virtual machine. So Praveen Sriram is the virtual machine name. I'm already logged into that virtual machine. So once the course is complete, I will stop it. That means this virtual machine will shut down, and I don't need to pay anything. But right now I'm using it. It has 4 CPUs and 16 GB RAM with Windows 10 operating system, enterprise level. So only in IIS it is possible to do a remote login. For PaaS, it's not. Yeah, good question. Exactly, you're right. Only the service is export, not the machine. Very good. All right. Good. The answer is PaaS services, SaaS services. You cannot log into those servers. They will not be exposed because the OS is managed by Microsoft. Can we install any software in IIS? Absolutely yes. Why? Because you can log in. When you log in, obviously you can install anything, right? Because you have browsers, you can have access to browser. From browser, you can download any software and install any software. It's absolutely possible with IIS. So now tell me this. We discussed this. Very good, Dave. PaaS. It's PaaS and SaaS, of course. PaaS is the first thing. OS upgrades and security patches are all automatically managed by Microsoft in PaaS. Obviously in SaaS also. Whatever is done in PaaS, SaaS also covers that. Let me See how many people have observed that. What is the URL of Azure Management Portal? Very good. Portal.azure.com. And what is the URL of Azure DevOps? Very good. dev.azure.com. Yes, very good. Yep, we are done, guys. So thank you for your time. Please be in touch with Visual Path guys, Malathi or someone. They will be able to share you this recording. This session is recorded. Okay, you can share it with your friends as well if they are interested. And be in touch with Malathi. She can share you the complete course content. Okay, and this recording as well, and she can let you know the start date. Okay, we will start. I'm going to close my existing batch very soon this week. I mean coming week. Next to next week we will start a new batch. Okay, so all right guys, thank you for your time. Have a good weekend. Bye bye.